Hey, this is Steve Bloom, and you are listening to the Geekcast Radio Network.
You are now on the inside of what I like to call the circle of trust.
We are all connected in the great circle of life.
You know something, Bert? What? I think you and I are going in circles.
It feels like we're going in circles.
The circle is now complete. When I left you, I was but the learner. Now I am the master.
Because it's a circle.
Yeah, we heard about the circle. Yes, we're familiar with shapes.
Hi, this is Chuck.
This is Greg.
And this is Dan, and we are Talking in Circles, brought to you by the Geekcast Radio Network, the podcast that's full of franchise players. I say that because today we're doing another Mount Rushmore. A long time ago, we did our first Mount Rushmore of determining what stand-up comics would make it to the stand-up comic Mount Rushmore, and go back, listen to that. And this time, we're going to look at a different topic, same idea though, as we try to determine what movie franchises would be in the movie franchise Mount Rushmore. So, you have, I'm sure, some movies on the tip of your tongue, someone you're pretty sure have to make it. Well, there are 4 spots, so when you start limiting it down, it gets difficult. So we'll get to that in our second segment. But
Police Academy.
Don't give it away yet. Jeez. But before we get to all that, how's the week been going for you guys?
Kind of crappy from the fantasy football standpoint. I totally got robbed this week. I was up by about 1.5 points on my opponent at the close of Sunday, and all of our players were done and all the games were over with, and I was happy because I thought I won, and Yahoo did a stat correction on me and subtracted 2 points, and ended up losing by 0.4 of a point.
Oof. Ouch. That's
yeah, I wasn't happy.
Oh man, I smell some colluding going on. I think maybe someone threw some money Yahoo's way. Maybe, I don't know. That sounds a little bit suspicious.
It's possible.
Funny you talk about fantasy football because I'll be actually talking about something related to that. So yeah, that's a crappy way to go. I got demolished in my game, so I don't know what's worse. I lost by 40 points, though I did pretty well. I went beyond what I was supposed to score, and then freaking Kirk Cousins, man. Jesus.
Yeah, that's bad, but I lost my chance at my perfect season, so I was kind of bummed. I could have been 4-0, but I fell to 3-1. I believe, Dan, it was to a friendly member of a fellow podcast.
Yeah, I believe you were playing JD. If he from the In Session Film podcast that I've been on a few times. He's been on MWire Weekly as well, back when that was a show and not Weekend at the Movies. But yeah, he beat you by 0.4 points, man.
So congratulations, well played, sir. You knocked off my perfect season, unfortunately, but yeah. I'll be a good sport about it, and hopefully we meet again. I can return the favor.
Be a good sport about it and complain about it and whine and write a petition.
Hopefully next time I can win by 0.4 of a point.
Oh, that's always the worst when you lose by not even a full point. That's all.
Yeah, I think I would rather lose by 40 points because even then you're okay, just throw in the towel. I had a terrible week, But that's just I definitely snatched defeat from the jaws of victory in that one.
Very nice. Greg, how's your week been going?
My week has been not the greatest. I've had this cold for about a week now that I've been trying to fight. Last night I went to bed around 8 o'clock. That's usually Chuck's girlfriend's bedtime, but I apparently have started falling asleep around 8 o'clock now. I was late for the recording of this podcast because I was taking a nap.
Hey, naps are amazing when you can get them.
Did you find your way back to the old age home or what?
Yes, I did. Actually, I found my way back to high school, weirdly enough, this week at work. I've had to take pictures for one of the local high schools. It was Spirit Week, so I had to sit through all that lovely stuff.
That's nice.
Yeah, I highly recommend you don't have to sit through that kind of stuff. But one interesting part that happened, one of the girls is like one of the head cheerleaders, and I had to take group photos for the cheerleaders, and they were just kind of a pain in my butt. So in my head, anytime I see this girl, it's like angry thoughts towards her, because the whole time she's like, no, I don't. Let's retake that one. My hair was going off to the side, and she's just like every 2 seconds it was a complaint about something that was going on, and I had to take the picture one certain way to get the light right and everything and perfect outside, and she just wanted to take it over this other angle because their hair would get blown back the right way and everything. And so like anytime I see this girl, I'm like, oh. But she was running it, so very negative thoughts running through my head, and I feel bad kind of right now because during the obstacle course for Spirit Week, she actually hurt herself. They had to like carry her off to the side, and like later on, I saw somebody carrying out crutches for her and everything. So I feel like I was kind of part of that in my head.
Greg slid the ramp just 6 inches to the left right before that.
For some reason, you heard an audible, cheer when she fell over, and you're like, "Whoop! Where'd that?" No.
Like, yeah. I mean, oh, sorry. Are you okay?
The thing is, after it was all over the obstacle course, it's not like any of her friends went over to check on her. Like nobody went up to her afterwards. It was really weird.
Weird.
Wait, obstacle courses are still a thing in high school?
Well, they were doing today. It was a menagerie of things. It was obstacle course, volleyball, tug of war, musical chairs, which apparently kids love because I swear to God, that got the most cheers out of everybody. And there were other little events like that going on. So yeah, I went back to high school. Apparently, I didn't enjoy it the first time around. I don't know why people trying to send me back to make me like it this time, but how was your week, Dan?
Well, question: how many people asked you to buy beer?
Myself and my stomach and maybe my father.
I'm just curious. Ooh, old dude, that's when I buy beer. It's funny you say obstacle course because I remember like the obstacle course we had in elementary school, which was like the funnest thing ever created ever.
Yeah, it was awesome.
It was, which I'm sure if we went back and looked at it now, it'd be like, really? It's like monkey bars, but it was like this monkey bars and this thing you would flip over. It was, I don't know.
Yeah, they actually had a spring-loaded ramp thing that you would jump off of and flip over these mats. Oh, it was awesome.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's probably illegal now. So it's like
probably.
I remember we played this one game in elementary school where like we had swords, and the point of this game was like hitting each other with these swords. And I'm like,
I remember that.
I'm like, all right, I guess.
Yeah, it was these big red like foam things, but they were still like heavy. Like if you whack somebody with it, you could actually like hurt them.
Yeah. Oh man, back in those days, where like they didn't care at all. So
yeah, let them beat each other for an hour. Maybe they'll be tired out for the rest of the day.
It explains a lot. But no, my week's been rather uneventful. Not been doing much. I'm excited because I actually got back to running again. I've done a couple long distance runs, like of 6 miles and above, which has been kind of cool. So I've been hurting a lot. So if you hear me aching, I apologize. So, and of course, I've been following that up with some great Oktoberfest Samuel Adams, because that's, you got to stay fit that way. But it's actually pretty cool in Baltimore right now. The Orioles in the playoffs are actually playing as we speak. So if I start cheering or getting angry and yelling, I apologize. So it's that time of year.
I have it on as well on mute.
I'm watching football on mute.
Talking in Circles, the perfect podcast to watch TV on mute.
We're just multitasking, that's all.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't have a TV in where I record, so I don't have that opportunity. Though, interesting that you brought up fantasy football, Chuck, because I was actually watching a fantasy football related show. And Greg, I know you're a big fan of the show, and that's The League on FX.
Oh, I love The League.
Yes. I finally sat down. I was watching it with my wife. We've gotten through like the first season and almost the second season now, and the show is fantastic. It is so
it's so good,
hilarious. And Chuck, I think you would love the show as well. It's definitely our sense of humor in a lot of different ways. Just people saying things that they obviously shouldn't, and people who take fantasy football a lot more seriously than we do, in some rather hilarious hijinks, I would say. But for those that don't know, it's It's been around for a long time. It's basically a show centered around a bunch of guys in their fantasy football league and like the craziness that ensues. But the good thing about it too is like you don't have to be that much into fantasy football to actually enjoy the show. Like my wife, I mean, she has a passing interest in football. She knows some of the names and stuff like that, but she finds it really funny as well. So a lot of great characters. Like Taco on that show has become one of my all-time favorite TV characters already. He's rather funny and just a great dynamic. Paul Scheer, who we've talked about the how did this get made podcast, he's on there as well. Like Mark Duplass and a few other guys Andy Kindler, who's a lot of these guys who were on the show are now like doing a billion other things. So it's actually pretty good cast. Not Jason Sudeikis, but who's the other guy, Greg, that comes on in the second season?
Oh, Jason Mantzoukas?
Jason Mantzoukas shows up as well.
Freaking crazy.
Some of the stuff they don't hold anything back in that show at all. It's not too gratuitous or anything like that, but it's certainly not PC in any way. So it's rather funny. It's great because it's like a tight 20-minute show. It's really funny. Highly recommend it. It's just kind of cool too, like because the first season was like in 2009, and hearing them talk about fantasy football players that are no longer relevant whatsoever anymore. You're just like, like I got LaDainian Tomlinson. I'm like, yeah, that'd be great right now. So. But, it just makes you realize how quickly football changes when the show's. I mean, I guess 2009 is like 6 years ago, which is 5 years ago, which is kind of crazy. But I don't know. So, anyways, not much to say about the league. It's been around for a long time. It's just a good show, and if you're into sports at all, definitely check it out. It's rather funny.
And I don't even think you really need a football background to get into it. So.
No, I agree. Like
that's just an excuse to get the guys together and
exactly
really competitive with each other.
They could be into like a knitting club or something like that, and it would still. It's more about their extreme behavior around the league than the actual league itself. It's not like they get into minutia of how fantasy football works and stuff like that. I mean, there's some stuff about trading and whatnot, but nothing really too fantastic that you wouldn't know. So
yeah.
So Chuck, I would definitely venture you checking that out if you ever have.
I actually have checked it out before. I've watched a couple episodes. I think like I don't know, a few years ago probably, but it was interesting. I never stuck with it to kind of watch like a full season or anything. But if I see it on, I'll have to try to check it out more.
If you have it's on Netflix. So if I would advise like watching it concurrently, like throughout the season, because it does. I mean, the episodes, it's not like a show that's connected with plot, but you do see things build upon themselves a lot. So if you can, I would advise watching it that way. So especially lets you like learn how the characters are and stuff like that. So
yeah,
very cool. But Chuck, I know you said you read a graphic novel. Is that correct?
Yeah, I've been checking out a new show. It's a new TV show that just premiered September 22nd, I think it was, on CBS. And it's called Scorpion. I'm not sure if you guys have heard anything about this.
I've seen about the 9 billion commercials.
Yeah. Dan, have you heard anything about it?
I've only seen the commercials when I've been watching football, and I know it has the guy who was Terminator in Terminator 2. Robert Patrick, I think.
He's a Terminator in this too. No.
Nice. Now I have to watch it.
He's got the really long, pointy metal finger. No, but this is on, I think, 9 o'clock Eastern time, right after Gotham, actually, because Gotham's 8 to 9 on Fox, and then switch over to CBS. This starts at 9. But it's basically about a small group of extremely smart 20-somethings who kind of have trouble like functioning in society because of their genius intellect. And they all work for the main character for his company called Scorpion, and they all end up being recruited by this special agent who is the Terminator from Terminator 2.
From the future, so.
Yeah. He is with the Department of Homeland Security, and he recruits these people because he has a past with the main character, and so he kind of goes back to them and recruits them to help him with current global threats that are like too complex for their agents and stuff like that. He describes all the people on the team, like the lead character, who's based on a real life genius named Walter O'Brien. He's like supposedly, like in the show, they say he's like the 4th highest IQ in history of like 197. And Einstein was only like 160 or something, so you kind of have that little, splash there to try to impress everybody.
Well, based upon an online quiz, I think I'm like 155, so I'm not far off. And those online quizzes, they're very official.
They are. They really are.
I had to know like what all the shows Ryan Seacrest hosts. I mean, that takes a lot of knowledge.
And then don't forget all the characters from Jersey Shore. That'll add like 20 points.
Well, you actually lose like 10 points for every one you get right. So it's kind of weird.
They punish you for watching that show.
Honestly, we probably should punish people for watching that show. I don't think it's on the air anymore, but still, those people that did watch it in the future, retribution's coming. I'm just saying.
It's coming for you. But yeah, and then there's other members of this team. Like the one guy is like a psychology like expert. He's like a Harvard trained behavioral analysis guy, and he's like super smart at picking up people's mannerisms and what they're thinking and what they're gonna do and everything. And there's another guy who they call the human calculator, and he's like super smart with math, and he can just calculate things in his head, just do like these huge like calculus equations and all this crap. And then there's a girl who's this expert in mechanical engineering, and it's not only intelligence, but she's very hands-on. She can fix anything like really quickly.
Is she very hands-on, Chuck?
I don't know. They never really get into that.
Not say no more.
You got to keep watching to find out, I guess.
Oh.
But
incentive.
The whole thing is kind of based on loosely based on a true story of the real life of Walter O'Brien, who is this CEO of his own company called Scorpion Computer Services. And by his own claims, he says that he's led this wild life with all these crazy things happening to him and being a part of the NSA or Homeland Security or whatever it was. And he's basically the lead character in the show. It's played by an actor, obviously, but he shares the same name, and it's supposed to be his character. The real life Walter O'Brien is a co-producer on the show. He kind of helps write some of the episodes and kind of guides the plot lines and stuff like that. There's a lot of speculation out there about the legitimacy of his real life claims and feats and stuff like that. Like most people pretty much say he's like a phony and just basically like a self-promoter. There was a claim by O'Brien that when he was 13 years old, he hacked into NASA's computer systems, and he wanted the blueprints for the space shuttle to hang on his wall. And after he had done that, a bunch of black cars came to his house and questioned him and all this stuff. He also claimed that Homeland Security did contact him, and they added him to their list of top interests because of how good of a hacker he was and how intelligent he was and all that stuff. And people are kind of having a blast, like going online and just kind of debunking all of these things. Like I guess there's like lists of Olympiads and stuff, and his name never comes up in any of these things. And if you Google like top 10 lists of history's highest IQs, like no one ever comes up by the name of Walter O'Brien. So it's like this thing with like a lot of mystery surrounding it, and people are pretty much just bashing this guy, saying he's like a phony and everything. But that aside, I do happen to like the show a lot, and my dad is even into it. Like he was hooked after the first one, and he was looking forward to the second one. And basically, I think that's because there's a pretty solid human element to the show that connects like the four friends, as well as the relationship kind of being hinted at between O'Brien and this former waitress that kind of joins their team. And they all seem to just have like a lot of chemistry, which really surprises me for such a young show with like not much star power in it, except for the Terminator guy.
You really don't need any bigger star than that, right? I mean, like,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, every episode, he'll be back. That was pretty lame. But of course, the action is like really over the top, and things are really convenient when the way they happen, and everything goes down to the last possible second, and before they like figure it out and solve this problem and everything. It's kind of like a week to week thing. There's a different problem every week, but I think it's highly entertaining despite all those things. Like I think it's honestly just the actors, like they seem to make up for that overinflated action and suspense sequences and stuff just with their chemistry. I think it's definitely worth a watch. I've seen the 2 episodes so far. By the time this comes out, there'll be a third one because, like I mentioned, it's on Mondays. But I'm genuinely hooked to it. I would say I'm kind of more invested in it than I am with Gotham, honestly, so far.
How dare you?
I don't blame you.
I'm just I'm more intrigued with this show. I still watch Gotham, of course, because I'm kind of waiting for it to get a little bit better. But this show just grabbed me right from the beginning, and I enjoy it. A lot of people are bashing it. I know, like Rotten Tomatoes, which is the be all end all of ratings. Of course, everyone knows that. Now it's got like a 38% rating on there. Like a lot of people, there's this whole group of people out there that are bashing the show, and they think it's stupid and everything's over the top, which may be the case, but it's freaking TV. Like, like everything is over the top. Like, I hate to break it to you, but I say give it a watch. It's really entertaining, for the type of show that it is. It's pretty fascinating.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, I personally haven't checked it out, but maybe I will. Kind of hard. It's tough because like one day I end up watching football mostly. So after Gotham, but I don't know. Gotham, I'm not sure about it. It's been okay so far. Like, not enough. Like I'm gonna stop watching it, but I did fall asleep during the last episode, but that's just because I was tired. So I fall asleep to anything. But
I read a comment on one of the other Geekcasts. I think it was the Remote Control podcast's comment section. I think someone commented on there that the best part of Gotham is the guy that's playing the Penguin.
Oh yeah. And
I would have to agree with that so far. He's kind of stealing the show so far.
Oh yeah, definitely. I would not disagree. He's been, I forget who that actor is, but he's I like his take. It's a different take, but it still kind of falls in line. And yeah, I would honestly, if the show was just him, it'd probably be better.
Yeah. So, but yeah, check out Scorpion if you get a chance, and I'd be curious to hear what you guys think of it, because it's kind of similar to a lot of the stuff that we watch. So it'd be interesting to see what you guys think.
And speaking of Remote Control, I do believe they will be doing, and for those that don't know, Remote Control is a newish podcast at Geekcast Radio that covers television, and they will be doing an episode on that show. So you may want to check that out if you're interested. So, but Greg, I know you've been kind of the reader lately. So what have you been up to?
Well, I have to be the reader with all the stuff that I still have sitting around from the Baltimore Comic-Con.
Well, you can be like me, just be looking at it and thinking, I need to read that, and then not. It's like,
well, there's a lot of stuff.
Look at it every night, It looks pretty on the shelf.
I've literally brought the graphic novel Hacktivist to work to read during lunch, and I have not done it once yet. So it's like this entire. But anyways, Greg, what have you been reading?
To kind of go off of Chuck's Geniuses run, and he had a little mention there of Einstein, I read a graphic novel. It's the first volume. There's other volumes, but I read the first one of the Manhattan Projects. I got it pretty cheap at the con, and it was something that I thought was kind of interesting, but I wasn't too fond of the art, so that was holding me back from purchasing this item at full price, because the artwork is just blah. It's got kind of this gritty feel to it, but all the characters feel very static. Doesn't seem to big sense of emotion. And a lot of line work, which makes everybody look really old and kind of disgusting, like they actually have filth on them constantly. But the story is just craziness. It's called the Manhattan Project. If you're not up to date on your history, the Manhattan Project has to do with America's development of nuclear arms, weaponry, the atom bomb, that kind of stuff. And it's what developed the tools to take out Japan, essentially, for the end of World War II. And this has a mention of that, but the Manhattan Project is actually a cover for other experiments that are going on underneath the ground, underneath the where they were developing the bombs in New Mexico. And it's got Robert Oppenheimer, it's got Albert Einstein, and it mentions a couple other notable scientists, even a German one, and I forget his name at this point. But they're all together doing all these like crazy Fantastic Four type experiments are going on, and it is seriously just insanity. Crazy shit is just going down. Like it's some of the weirdest stuff I've ever seen in a comic book. If it was written by a little kid, I'd believe like a very educated little kid, because it's just crazy. Like these monks attack, they teleport in and attack this place. There's aliens getting killed. Oppenheimer is the freaking craziest character in here. I don't want to give too much away, but Oppenheimer has a twin brother, and eventually this twin brother kills the original Oppenheimer and essentially takes his memory by eating his brother.
Nice.
So this guy's going through and like it's like African cannibals who would eat the hearts of their enemies to acquire their courage. He's doing it to acquire their knowledge, essentially. So he's like freaking weird as hell, but seriously probably one of the best characters in there. The story is actually by Hickman, and the art is by Pitara, who I've never heard of before and not really a fan. But the story is honestly just crazy out there, and I would probably pick up the second one just for the story, not the art, because it was just crazy out there weirdness going on.
It sounds like it was like made by through story Mad Libs. It's like
kind of, yes, kind of.
Famous person, Oppenheimer.
Yeah, it was pretty incredible. They've got presidents in there that they talk about. I believe FDR becomes a giant. Was it FDR? Who was the president at that time?
During the FDR.
Yeah, was it? Oh, okay. And they transform him into this giant artificial intelligence kind of thing. It's really weird.
Very cool.
But I recommend it for the storyline only. The artwork is kind of atrocious. And then the other graphic novel that I read is fucking huge.
That's a weird title, but all right.
No, it's Doctor Who. It's a Doctor Who story. It's called Winter's Dawn, Season's End. And it was a freaking massive graphic novel. It's supposed to be $50, but I got it for $25 at the Baltimore Comic Con. The artwork, there's two different artists, which they I feel like, go.
Step it.
Thank you.
Step it.
Rogers scored a massive touchdown. I'm kind of cheering for Green Bay at this point.
I'm just watching the Orioles game here, too. In the bottom of the eighth, the Orioles just cranked in 4 runs just now. They're up 10-3.
I was watching it online.
Since he can't get to the TV.
Yeah, I'm watching the pathetic thing online where it's it's the worst video game ever.
It's like the NFL.com one when it's the little bars on the screen.
It's really sad when I'm at because I don't get really any of the Giants games around. It's really sad when you're into a sport just by text messages. It's I start cheering because I get a text message. I'm like, Carol's like, what are you doing? I'm like, it's a touchdown. You see this line? This line means a good thing. I'm like,
this line just crossed that other line going perpendicular. That means it's a touchdown.
Yeah, I mean, if you try to explain that to someone who's never watched football before, you would be a crazy person. They're like, yeah, see, yeah. But anyway, sorry to interrupt you, Greg.
No, it's cool. But it was the story kind of confusing. It's not as fun as a Doctor Who TV show because you get a lot more running around, more action. It feels very high intensity with watching a Doctor Who TV show. You don't really get that with the static images. And I feel like it was by people who just got into the business, because there's a couple times that I felt like there was just weird things. Like one panel should have came after another, but they had them in the opposite order, which really didn't make as much sense. So that I felt there were issues with that. The artwork, there's a couple different artists, and after every book, it changes to a different artist or back to one of the previous artists. So it didn't feel very complete. It felt very chopped up. one of the artists had just there's no variation in his line work, so it felt very like computer animated. Nothing really stuck out in the panel. It didn't really give it any depth or anything. And then there was another artist, it's essentially Mike Mignola artwork, but not as interesting for whatever reason. It didn't really grab you like Mike Mignola's artwork does. And the story itself, I found it tough to keep up with. And I don't think the author really, he had to write lines for the 10th Doctor, which would be played by Dave Tennant. And I don't think the author really had a feel for things that he would say, because there were a lot of times that he would say stuff and I'm like, well, that's kind of like this, but it's kind of not really something I think I would hear him say.
Do you think like someone who's not got into Doctor Who would at all have any interest in it?
I think it's too hard to keep up what the hell is actually going on if you don't know Doctor Who. And I don't think people that watch Doctor Who would particularly enjoy it.
So it's a no-go for me.
Yeah, I don't think you'd be interested. I don't think Dan would really be interested. My friend Ashley, who watches Doctor Who and is in love with David Tennant and Doctor Who, I'd even feel bad recommending it to her. I kind of found it a struggle to keep up with. But who knows? She was she's an English teacher, so she may like it. She may be able to keep up with the complexity of the plot, I guess. It was just a weird story. There were some good points to it, but I don't think there was really enough to make it actual good graphic novel. It was tough to keep up with. I feel like I'm repeating myself now, so I'm going to shut up.
Bottom line is not recommend anymore.
Yeah, it was a giant ass book too. I don't even think it was worth the $25. It looks really nice. On the outside, like the design of it, the book itself was really good, but the artwork was.
Yeah, well, that stinks. Well, before we go, there was one thing we all did get to watch, and a particular person with a particular set of skills is apparently making his return in Taken 3 and...
Tekken?
Don't know how you're supposed to say the new Taken 3 with the 3 in the end. I don't know. It's Tekken.
It's Takthrn.
Okay, Takthrn, which...
We're apparently in the Star Trek universe now.
Takthrn.
Well, the new trailer is out, and I know we've talked about Brian Mills and Taken a few times. I'm sure we did, because it's how could you not? So I'm curious. I know we weren't big fans of, I assume, as much of fans of Taken 2 as Taken 1 was, but now that he is being taken again, apparently, how do we feel about this upcoming movie?
I thought the trailer looked awesome. I wasn't particularly happy with the second one. I felt like they were kind of just going through the motions. I know they switched it up a little bit by taking him. You know, that was a huge plot twist there. That was, they really switched it up on us there. But I mean, of course I watched it just to watch it because those characters are established and I like those characters and the audience likes those characters. But I felt like the second one was just kind of like, it was just there. You know, it was all right. But this one, a little bit different, like take on it, a little bit take on Taken. This looks intriguing to me. Like this looks like the number 2 that we would have wanted. You probably.
That's the new tagline. The number 2 you really wanted but couldn't have.
Number 2 was exactly that, a number 2.
Who does number 2 work for?
But that might be coming up next segment. So interesting.
I'm really curious to see some of the things in the trailer. I won't spoil it if anybody hasn't seen it yet, but there's one particular part that I think they're leading you to believe something, and I don't know if they're going to pull a switcheroo on you or not, but it's intriguing. Definitely check it out if you haven't seen it yet. Greg, what did you think?
Well, since you both want to hear what I say, I'm going to take all the time in the world to lay this out on the table for you. I agree with Chuck. It definitely looks much better than the second one. I think the title is atrocious.
Yeah, it is.
It was clever the first time the movies did something like that, but not anymore.
Not 20 years later. It's no longer okay to do it.
Yeah, I feel like this is kind of like an update version of I'm not going to remember the title of it, but Dan Whale, the movie with Harrison Ford. He's on the run. Doctor.
Fugitive.
Yes, I feel like it's an update of The Fugitive, except with a more badass Liam Neeson, who's got all this different shit going on, where he's like super soldier without the serum, going out and kicking ass. And also, you've got more of that eye candy of the looks like Alexandria Daddario, but not Alexandria Daddario, the daughter.
She was in Lost, wasn't she?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. But it's a girl that they look very similar, just very cute. And so she's also involved somehow. But it was kind of interesting how they set it up of all of a sudden they're all together in this idyllic situation now, all happy and no longer divorced, angry, fighting with each other. They haven't been taken in a while. I'm quite interested to hear what you guys think is the aspect of the movie title of Taken. Who is taken in this one?
Well, I don't think anyone's going to be taken, because I was actually reading an article where Liam Neeson only agreed to do Taken 3 if no one was taken. So that was like his rule. He said he.
Well, I feel like somebody was actually taken, though. I feel like somebody was, but I want to hear from you guys first.
Well, my guess is probably not, and if someone is, maybe it's his. I don't know, maybe his wife, kind of. But it's hard to say.
It's his dog. Take his dog.
They take his pride. Is that what we're saying? I don't know. What do you think, Greg? I feel like you haven't any idea. I have not.
Well, did you have an answer, Chuck?
Not really. I mean, I guess like it looks to me like someone gets taken in a different sense.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I'm going with too.
Yeah. Not necessarily in the sense we're used to in the other movies, but.
Yeah, because I don't feel bad for saying this, because the commercial's out there. You can go see it. But his wife gets murdered. So I feel like she is the one being taken. Her life is being taken away. So I think that's the aspect of the movie title in there at this point.
Yeah, well, taken to another level, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. Taken to hell and death or heaven. Maybe she was a good person.
Taken from Earth. But well,
that's a sequel. He's gonna go to heaven and like punch.
Taken for no reason.
That's brilliant.
That's a way better title than the one they have now.
But yeah, since we're spilling the beans a little bit, like
spill those beans.
My question was, there's a scene in which they show a funeral and a casket. Do you think that's the wife, or do you think that's perhaps Liam Neeson? Maybe at the end of the movie he kind of gets...
Maybe they're building it as the last one, so that's a possibility.
I'm thinking they're showing it right after what happened to his wife, so it's like, I don't know, but I could be way wrong. Maybe they're just going with the straightforward approach, and he's gonna have the last laugh in the end, and he did wish them good luck, so.
Yeah.
Or it could be that somebody faked her death and he didn't have time to check the body to make sure she was actually dead, and it was a whole big setup, and she's actually alive, and she's the one that's...
Well, she's behind everything.
Yeah.
She is Jean Grey, so if she dies, can we really believe it? I mean...
Yeah, she could come back in like 2 seconds.
She can transfer her consciousness into another body or something.
At the end, you'll see a phoenix sign in the river. Is it?
The girl's dead friend from the first movie.
Yes.
It's going to go in her butt. Which, oddly enough, was, I'm pretty sure that's Laurel from Arrow.
Oh, really?
Yeah. if I'm not mistaken. But, yeah, it should be interesting. Forrest Whitaker's in it. And,
there you go. And so was his eye. So.
Oh, that eye creeps me out. I'm sorry, Forrest Whitaker. I know you can't. You're not responsible for your eye, but it freaks me out. Sorry.
Yeah. But
it seems like he always takes that role where he's like he's the guy in front of all the police officers, like briefing them on the person. Like I've seen him in that role a few times now. Like I don't know.
He really is. He's really good at briefing. It's like
this guy right here. This guy knows how to get stuff back that was taken from him.
Brian Mills has a particular set of skills, and so does Forrest Whitaker. Really good at telling people what they did. He's like really good.
He's like, we will find him.
Forrest Whitaker's like, I just Googled this guy 3 minutes ago, and this is what I found.
Oh, he will stab you in the knee, so that's not cool. But
just wear throat protectors because he hits everyone in the throat.
Yeah, a lot of throat punching. There wasn't much throat punching in the trailer. Hopefully more throat punching next time, so we'll see. But
it's always good.
We'll take a break real quick, and when we come back, we'll be getting into more movie talk as we talk about what are the best movie franchises ever. We'll be here. We'll be making the determination. Doesn't matter what you think. It matters what we think. So we'll see you in a bit.
Every week on the In Session Film Podcast, you can expect to hear reviews on all of the latest movies, big films, small films, and everything in between. We'll also do top 3 segments relating back to our main review. We discuss all of the latest movie news and rumblings, as well as have movie series and other fun segments. And we always talk about the films that we're watching and why you should watch them or not watch them as well. If you want to learn more about the In Session Film Podcast, check us out online at InSessionFilm.com. You can hear our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, TuneIn Radio, and so much more. In fact, you can listen to everything we have straight from our website. Again, that is InSessionFilm.com. Download our podcast, check us out, and come join us every week. We'd love to hear from you.
Hello, pop culture connoisseurs. Do you gain a dark sense of peace when the guilty are punished by a violent vigilante? If so, maybe you should get some therapy, and then subscribe to Punisher Body Count, the net's best podcast concerning all things Frank Castle. I'm Dane Lamont. My co-host Jake Williams and I cover the good, the bad, and the hilarious on the Punisher comics, movies, and news. Do you like chummy co-host banter? We got that. You need to get your fucking
No, you need to
man.
fucking pay attention to the fucking movie.
You want kick-ass guest interviews? How about Mike Barron and Tom Jane?
No, I like a little bit of grit in my cigar.
You want carefully considered in-depth analysis?
I mean, yeah, just won Best Picture at the Oscars yesterday. I mean, it's no Terminator. It was still,
Good luck with that. Punisher Body Count, twice a month on Geekcast Radio.
All right, and welcome back. And like I mentioned, today our big goal is trying to determine if they made a Mount Rushmore of the best franchises, what movies would we pick to represent franchise films? You know, they're huge now. Like, there's so many franchises going on, some better than others. We're picking the best of the best here to represent franchises as a whole. So then the other question becomes, well, what do you mean by movie franchise? Well, pretty much any movie series that has more than four or more movies. We're going to kind of shy away from trilogies because we figured trilogies could probably be its own thing. So that's our goal. Basically anything that has any series of films that's connected in some way that has 4 more movies. And we are going to include comic book movies in this. We'll see. We had some discussion beforehand to see if we think that they would fit in this. And they might. There's a possibility. So I guess throw a question out there to you guys before we kind of pick and choose which ones we want. When you think of a good movie franchise, what are some things that makes a franchise stand out above others?
Well, for me, honestly, I would say that a criteria would be that every movie in the franchise would have to be pretty good. I wouldn't include something that's like, a dynamite first or second film, and then the other ones are kind of crappy. I don't know if I would include something like that.
Well, I guess the way I kind of look at it, too, with a movie franchise, like you said, Chuck, I think longevity, like having quality throughout. There are some that I'm thinking maybe have 1 or 2 duds just because there's so many of them. Longevity, so it's been around and like having an impact, and it's overall has a certain general place within culture, so people are aware of it, So I think if you're going to be in a Mount Rushmore, people have to be aware of it, and it has to have some sort of impact culturally, either pop culture or what have you. So it's kind of what I was thinking as well regarding these. So, Chuck, do you have any, regarding your criteria and what you were thinking of, any ones that jump out at you first off that you feel like, okay, these are some ones we should talk about?
I have quite a few, probably not as many as you, but
So what's one from your list?
All right, I feel like this is like the most obvious one ever. I don't even know if I want to mention it yet. Ah, boy, I'll skip that one. I'll go with my one of my favorites, and that's the Rocky franchise.
Nice. I figure you would go Rocky. I know you're a big fan.
Yeah, so there's obviously we have 6 movies in that franchise. I would say there's one definite dud for me, at least, which was number 5. Didn't care for that one too much, but the other ones were pretty solid for me anyway.
Craig, what do you think about the Rocky films?
I've always liked them. I thought it kind of fell off at the 4th one. I believe that's the one with Tommy Gunn, right?
No,
that's the 5th one.
Yeah.
Oh, that is the 5th one?
Yeah, the 4th one is when he goes to Russia to end the Cold War.
Okay.
Single-handedly, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was the first one is him versus Apollo Creed. Second one is the rematch. Third one is him versus Mr. T. Fourth one is Russian. Yep. And then 5th one is the Tommy Gunn one. Yeah. So I agree with Chuck. Got a little confused there, but I got it back together after talking through it. But yeah,
it's just one, by the way. Quick update.
Vikings are still down 14-0. But I've always liked the Rocky movies. Like I said, it did kind of go down there at the end for me, and the 5th one was probably a toss away. And then, are we considering Balboa part of that franchise?
Oh, definitely, I would.
Yeah, definitely. I think that was actually a big highlight in that franchise, especially after number 5 is kind of a dud. I think 6 came. I consider it Rocky 6 anyway. It kind of like became I would say almost my 2nd or 3rd favorite in the franchise. Like, obviously 4th's my favorite, and then maybe number 1, and then I would say Rocky Balboa. But
yeah, I do like Rocky Balboa too. It was a rather big surprise. I didn't think it'd be any good, but it actually turned out to be. It was very reminiscent of the first film in a lot of ways, and so. But yeah, so do we feel like? I do like the Rocky franchise as well. I have some issues with the first movie, mainly because it beat out one of my favorite films network for Best Picture in 1976. So I held a grudge against it for no real reason whatsoever. But I mean, when I talked about Criteria having a cultural impact, Rocky had so much of a cultural impact that Philly made a statue of him because he's their only real sports hero. So he had to be a fictional character.
That was a shot from a Giants fan right there, in case you didn't pick up on that.
So certainly, I mean, in the songs were huge. I mean, the
soundtrack was awesome in those movies.
A lot of infamous soundtracks. So do we believe, I mean, obviously we're still going through these. This is the first one, but do we feel like this shirt certainly belongs, I mean, it's fitting. Does it belong in contention within the top 4, or what do you think, Greg?
Yeah, I think we could put it in there tentatively for now.
I'm assuming, Chuck, that you agree.
Hell's yeah.
Yeah, I agree for now. I definitely think that Rocky 5 is a pretty black eye for the franchise. Oh, see what I did there? But
yo, like, what are you doing?
But I think honestly, if we'll probably have more franchises that are similar like that, because we'll get to a few. But I agree. We'll put it in contention. Definitely. You know, it's not one we should throw away quite yet. It should, in true Rocky fashion, it'll go down to the wire, I'm sure.
Yeah, it definitely has a chance of getting bounced out of there, which, you know, even I can see that. But for now, I definitely like to have it in contention.
Okay. And I'll bring one up, and I figured I'll start here because we are in the month of October. In the month of October, we do have a lot of scary films, and there's like a lot of different horror
Scary face.
There are a lot of different horror films, and I think right now maybe horror franchises aren't what they used to be. We don't really have one. I mean, we have Paranormal Activity. I don't think that's nearly. I think that's kind of like more of a fad, but we've had some in the past, and I don't know how big of horror fans you are. I don't think very much, and I myself am not the horror aficionado by any means, but I do think some of you have to respect them somewhat. And one franchise that comes to mind is. And it's hard to say franchise because technically these are like films that aren't completely connected, but they are existing within the same universe. The characters are typically different, and that's George Romano's Dead franchise. You have Dawn of the Dead, Night of the Living Dead, Day of the Dead, Land of the Dead. They all technically kind of exist within the same place, so it's more loosely based franchise.
It's all the same universe, though. It's maybe in different parts of America. They usually take place in America, usually around Pittsburgh, because he's a Pittsburgh guy. But I think that they're all in the same universe, though.
So what I know, Greg, you're a zombie fan. So what's your feeling on the franchise as a whole?
I think it's a little offsided. There's some good ones and there's some good parts to the movies, but then there's also bad parts. They're not the most exceptional movies in the world. I think there's going to be a lot of stuff that's definitely more out there. And when you talk about horror, it hits some of the population, so not all of it. So it really doesn't fit into your cultural aspect thing. I think the first one, it was just so crazy and out there and something kind of new that you could say for a single movie that you could take that. But I don't think for the whole thing. Romero movies aren't the greatest, if you ask me. And I haven't really seen all of his franchises, so I feel kind of bad saying all that, but I don't think it's something that's that powerful that's going to really make the Mount Rushmore, to be quite honest.
Yeah, I mean, his last few films have been less than stellar, to say the least.
Yeah, they've been like straight to DVD for the most part.
Yeah, he's been kind of like a one-trick pony a little bit, though. You do, I guess, culturally, like you said, yeah, maybe not the most popular, but definitely had a huge impact on the zombie genre as a whole. I mean, kind of redefined that, and like we have things like Walking Dead now, which can thank Romero a lot for what he did with the whole entire zombies, because before that they were very much different, more magical based and stuff like that. So maybe necessarily, like you said, it's not nearly as strong as something like Rocky. I think maybe deserves a mention, but Chuck, have you watched that franchise at all? Any of the Dead films?
Actually, I have not seen any of them. I guess, like you said, I'm not a huge horror fan. I've been getting into it a little bit more in the last few years, which kind of surprised me because I thought you were going a different way with this when you were kind of bringing it in. I would think of something more like Halloween or something, but...
I was thinking of Halloween, but I also knew that Greg was in the zombies, so I figured, Yeah.
and plus, get my vote.
Yeah.
And plus, like you mentioned with a lot of these horror movies, like, you might get one good one, and then you'd get like 4... terribly awful, disgusting, horrible ones.
Yeah.
And then like one good, decent one, and then like 5 more shitty ones, and so I don't know. That's a slippery slope for the horror films. But
yeah.
No, I'm not real familiar with the Dead movies though.
Yeah, I think Night of the Living Dead is certainly aged a bunch. It's not nearly what it was. It's certainly important. It's more of a film that's more important than it is good. I still think Dawn of the Dead, the original, still holds up. I do like the remake too, as well. That's a pretty good zombie film too.
Yeah, definitely a classic though.
And you did mention Halloween. I did think of that, but I think my issue with Halloween is, like you mentioned, in the kind of like same thing with Friday the 13th, even Nightmare on Elm Street, that regarding like horror films is, if you're thinking like having a quality throughout, like it is very consistent. Like the first Halloween, very good, and then it kind of you end up getting that, like, even, I mean, a lot of the franchises have a repetition, but I think horror franchises in general, like they go from scary to like becoming comedic in a way, and then kind of back again. So I thought Halloween, but I don't know. I don't think I would count that really. I'd love to have a horror franchise, but I personally right now can't think of one that's strong enough that I feel like definitely belongs. So.
Basically, a lot of the horror movie studios are like, in late August, they're like, oh crap, let's like crank out another movie from this franchise to have it out by Halloween.
Let's make another. We have 8 hours. Let's make another Paranormal Activity movie.
It's almost like they start it in September. Like, okay, hurry up, put it together. Okay, we'll get it out in October.
Yeah, very cool. Okay, well, what are some other franchises we're thinking of that maybe we should that are worth a mention?
I've got one, but I don't think Chuck is going to care for it too much, but I think the popularity of it will...
Hate it, stupid, hate it.
Okay. Harry Potter. But yeah, I think Harry Potter should definitely be up for consideration with
I believe it's Harry Potter.
Harry Potter, and from how much fanfare it's gotten, the movies are really good. It's got like not the literal magic that goes throughout it, but like the feeling of magic watching that you get.
Oh, it's magic.
You know. But I think it's definitely a franchise that needs to be put on the Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, I have that on my list as well, because I know, Chuck, I don't think you, like Greg mentioned, I don't think you're a fan of the franchise, but I do enjoy those movies a great deal. I do think they get a lot better as they go on. The first two films are probably the weakest, but I still think they're at least okay family films.
Yeah, they're still good.
Yeah, and I mean, it's hugely successful financially. The whole cultural thing, like you mentioned, it's kind of almost a little bit of a cheat since it was a book and it kind of just expanded upon that. But it also launched Emma Watson, which I'm sure that had a lot to do with Greg.
I'm going to pull a bit of a Greg here and reveal that I have never seen a Harry Potter movie at all.
That is not much of a surprise to me, Chuck.
I know Greg has his certain franchises that he hasn't seen, like Terminator and Alien and Predator and stuff like that, but I have never watched a Harry Potter movie. I'm not ashamed by it, but I never got around to it. Never really seemed to interest me, but I cannot deny, though, the impact of it, like culturally, like you said. Like I know, like I have a couple of friends at work that like go bonkers over Harry Potter stuff and just everything you see in the news. So
yeah, I mean, and there's talk of they're gonna have like another spin-off series that's coming up, and it started a trend that I wish it didn't start, but it made sense for Harry Potter, where it did the thing where it was like the last book was split up into two parts. And now, like, everyone's doing that, like Twilight. Which is like, you barely have words in your book. Do you really need to split it up into parts? So, but
shh, we don't talk about Twilight on this.
Yeah, that one is definitely not on this list. So, yeah.
Wait, we just come to think of it, we have to start over recording. We cannot mention that in this episode.
No. But yeah, I mean, but I think what Harry Potter did well, because honestly, like the second to last movie is probably maybe my favorite, which is, I know, maybe sacrilegious to some people, but and also those movies are made really well. Like a lot of money's putting in, and they're really great production. They look amazing on Blu-ray. So I definitely think that belongs in consideration. So we'll put definitely Rocky and Harry Potter up there, and then we'll see. When we try to cut them down, we'll put. I think any other ones we think have a possibility besides Twilight that doesn't.
I have possibly the greatest movie franchise of all time. And there is at least 4 of them. Toxic Avenger.
Nice.
But shouldn't we make like an own like Mount Rushmore just for Toxic Avenger? Like it should belong by itself on its own.
We could do a Mount Rushmore of like of terrible movies.
Terrible but good movies. That's a good idea. Honestly.
That'd be a good idea. But no, seriously, I have one suggestion. I'm going to tug on Dan's heartstrings a little bit on this because I know it's one of his favorites, and it just technically barely qualifies because they are coming out with a 4th one currently now, and that is of course Jurassic Park.
Oof. Yeah, I did think about Jurassic Park. I don't know. I love the first movie so much. I really do. I was honestly watching the 3rd film last night. It was like on TBS. And that movie is a lot better than people give it credit for.
Yeah, it is. I like that one.
There's a lot of good things in that. Like if you go back and watch it, there's some stuff that's a little bit questionable. Like talking to dinosaurs is still a little weird at the end. But in The Lost World, I like. It's definitely a step down from the first film, but there's things to like about it.
Ah, fuck you.
Sorry, Craig.
What?
Fuck you.
I'm guessing that was in response to the Green Bay interception, not Dan.
Yeah, the second one.
But Greg, what do you think about Jurassic Park?
I've loved those movies. I'm not sure if I'd agree with you guys about the 3rd one or not, because it was just kind of.
Come on, man.
It was weird with having Jeff Goldblum coming back, and
that's the second one.
Oh, it's the second one.
Yeah, the 3rd one has Grant come back.
Okay, well, the second one is weird for that, and then third one's weird for the whole genetically them getting the dinosaurs getting smarter and everything. I really, really enjoyed the first one. The second and third one are, and I am really looking forward to the fourth one. So I don't know. That one's on the edge for me.
Yeah, I want to pick it just because I want to see a giant dinosaur head on Mount Rushmore.
That would be awesome. That would be fun.
It would be pretty awesome. We have to declare what the head representative would be for the final.
Yeah. Sorry, Chuck, but I think I would probably lean towards no too. I mean, it's hard because Jurassic Park is like one of my all-time favorite films. It's number 2 for me. But I think as a franchise, I wouldn't I don't think I'd put it within the same league as something like Rocky. I think even like the films that I think are, second one is okay and third one is good, but I don't think it's as strong as some other possibility.
I would have to agree, just because the second one, you're right, I didn't really care for the second one. The fourth one obviously isn't out yet, so we haven't seen that. Thought I would just create a little bit of a controversy there because I know it's one of your favorites, and the first one is so good.
Yeah,
it kind of almost makes up for the second one, because the first one was so awesome.
It does. It's very top loaded for sure. It's like that football team with an awful defense but an amazing offense. One franchise that I'm going to bring up. I know, Greg, you haven't seen any of these films, but I think maybe you are aware of it on some extent, and it's a franchise that's been around for a while, since the 80s. It's still kind of going. I don't know if it's going strong, but it's going. Terminator franchise, you have the original Terminator, Terminator 2, Terminator 3, and Salvation, and the upcoming Terminator Genesis or however they're spelling it now, because that's how we do things.
They're really trying to appeal to the Irish.
Yeah. So Terminator's been around for a while. I mean, obviously people point to Terminator 2 as the strongest out of all the films, but is Terminator one that belongs on this Mount Rushmore of franchises?
Ooh, it's definitely in contention. I know I had it on my list as a mentionable. Pretty sure it wasn't on Greg's list since he hasn't seen it, but
no, but I can't deny its cultural impact. I'm gonna do a Harry Potter like Chuck did and use that kind of.
That's the oldest trick in the book. You can't pull that one.
The book that was written just about 10 minutes ago. So
lookest thou over there? Madest thou look? Love that commercial. Yeah, this is another one I have to just kind of let my geek flag fly a little bit and just think about that, metallic Terminator head as up on the Mount Rushmore there.
That would be pretty awesome. It would. But then, your worry is it comes to life and becomes like a living robot mountain, and then it destroys.
Yeah, but if you had the T-Rex head next to it, they could fight each other in there. But
that would be pretty awesome. I think it's in contention. My issue is I think the first Terminator movie, very good. Second Terminator movie, one of the best action films ever. Third one, it's it has its spots. A really great ending. Their ending in Terminator 3 is really fun.
Yeah, it is.
Terminator Salvation, I liked it. It was okay. So I think it definitely after the second film, you see a steep decline compared to the first two, similar to Jurassic Park. Though I think Terminator 2 has two strong films, but I think it has contention. But I think when it comes to something like Harry Potter or even Rocky, I don't know if it's going to compete. But I think maybe, it's something we should keep around and see.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't think it's quite, Mount Rushmore level. I mean, I'm thinking if we did a top 10, I would say it would make the list. You're right. The third one, not really that strong, except for the ending. I'm trying to get Greg to watch them here. Ending is really good. It's worth it. Trust me. But yeah, I think we can keep it around, but I think it's gonna miss the cut probably at the end of the day.
Alrighty. Any other ones we're thinking of?
Let's see.
The smallest Mount Rushmore ever.
Well, Greg, I know there's one I'm surprised you haven't brought up because it's one of your favorites. Well, we might as well go there. It's kind of been that.
My goal with this was just to go as long as possible without mentioning Star Wars, because I know the Star Wars fans would be like, Star Wars! What the fuck? You guys haven't even said Star Wars!
I think we went pretty well. We talked about a lot. But
we made them wait long enough. Honestly, I know, even I would admit, I think it's got to be number one, or it's got to be on there to me.
But the thing with those is the episodes 1 through 3 kind of kill it a little bit. It's kind of David chopping down at Goliath there.
Yeah, and I mean that certainly hurts it. You do have that weight killing it. That way, I do like episode 3 well enough.
Yeah.
And so I 2 bad movies, 2 really bad movies with but then you look at just, I mean, the strength of Empire Strikes Back and A New Hope. It's hard. And you talk about cultural impact. There's nothing bigger than cultural impact than that of Star Wars. So when you say movie franchises, the first thing people are probably going to respond with is Star Wars. So, and there's a lot of cool things we could put, like a Boba Fett head or Darth Vader's head or lightsaber or Yoda, like kicking crap out of someone or something. So
or Jar Jar Binks. Wait. I'll just leave now. Sorry.
Maybe the dinosaur head eating Jar Jar Binks. That would be kind of cool. But,
and the Darth Vader fighting with the Terminator.
Yeah. So we'll put it there. There's not much more to say about Star Wars that hasn't been said already. We'll put it up there. I'm sure it's going to make the list, just so those people will, calm down a little bit. But actually, Greg, I was thinking of something else that you're a big fan of.
Emilia Clarke, Emily Ratajkowski.
I'm sure if this guy was real, he could probably get them.
Oh, bastard.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I believe he has a license to kill.
Pink Panther?
No.
Yes.
That's not the Pink Panther. So I do like those movies.
I'm just busting on your song carrying skills.
Oh, it was that bad?
No, I'm just
much better than I could have pulled off. I promise you. But yeah, James Bond.
I've also got a cold, people. Cut me some slack.
James Bond, of course, maybe the original movie franchise, arguably. I mean, there were some before that, some like noir films, but really
How many are there? There are like 23 of them or something?
Yeah, currently 20.
Fucking lot.
Yeah, 23. It started in early 60s with Connery still going, and the next one's coming up in a year or two. We talked about Star Wars as a definite. I feel like James Bond is another one that's definitely has to be on there.
Yeah,
it's got quality and quantity.
Yeah, I mean there are some duds in there. There's no doubt about that.
Admittedly, there are some duds. What's his name? Dalton, the Lazenby, and
Dalton.
I think
Dalton.
that was
Patrick Swayze from
Timothy Dalton. No, not Patrick Swayze.
The name
Chuck has Patrick Swayze on the brain.
Though I like George Lazenby's Majesty's Secret Service. No, I forget the name of it.
I've never seen it. It just looks atrocious.
I would say it's probably the most reminiscent of, it's very similar to Casino Royale in its style, so you may not like it. But I like Timothy Dalton's movies too, but maybe, I don't know. Maybe that's weird. Maybe that's in the minority. At least the first one, so.
Yeah.
But Diamonds Are Forever is pretty awful, and I'm not a big fan of Thunderball. But
Which one?
Oh, the first one, I guess, yes. I guess technically it was remade as Never Say Never Again, which I haven't seen that one, honestly. That's the only one I haven't seen. But yeah, I mean, James Bond's huge. The cultural impact is there, of course. The song, the James Bond. It's made Sean Connery into a star, so.
Shaken, not stirred.
I know you haven't seen any of the Bond films, right, Chuck?
No, I'm going to take a huge slice in my geek credit and admit that I've never seen a Bond film at all.
If you did, I think, honestly, I would start with, maybe if we do homework assignment, we maybe, in the future, maybe start with Casino Royale, because I think you like the Bourne films, so they kind of have a similar quality in some ways. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's throw down there for James Bond. Anything else coming to mind? I mean, we really haven't talked about any of the comic book movies yet. Anything that we feel like, has a shot to make it?
Well, if you want to include anything in the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which are all the connecting movies to Avengers, everything done by Marvel Studios, is that like a franchise? Can we call that a franchise, or?
I would assume so, because I was looking at the top grossing franchises of all time, and they currently count the Marvel Cinematic Universe or the Avengers universe as a franchise. So, Greg, do you agree? Would you consider that a franchise?
I would. They're all in the same universe.
So, in same characters, all connected. are we thinking, that's in contention, or is it too soon to say, or,
I think that's kind of a modern day tour de force franchise right there.
What about you, Chuck?
I would say it's definitely in contention. I mean, it's pretty much owning stuff right now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like every one that comes out is like owning the box office.
I mean, when Guardians is the biggest movie of the year, it's kind of like, it's almost, in a way, it feels like almost like a cheat because of what it's capable of doing, but that also says a lot about what you're doing when you're kind of redefining what you can do with a franchise. So it's
yeah, I feel like it's the talk of the town, for lack of a better word. Like when Rocky was coming out, like, everybody was going crazy over those, and Star Wars and James Bond, and I feel like this is our modern day version of that, and I think it's going to be talked about for years to come.
Do we think any of the other comic book franchises would have a shot? Spider-Man, X-Men. I mean, those are technically all. X-Men has more than a trilogy. Superman. Anyone nearly as strong?
I considered Superman for a second, but with how awful the fourth one is, I couldn't put it in there.
And how creepy Superman Returns is with him peeking a sneak at his kid and everything.
Yeah, I thought about.
I mean, the first one's amazing, of course, but
yeah, the fourth one is pretty. Wow, that movie is insane. It is
with
one of the
Fingernail Man.
Yeah. Oh man, it's for some reason Superman films, like, they love him throwing stuff into the sun. Like, that's his thing. Like, just keep throwing things into the sun. But yeah, I agree. I don't think any other. I mean, Spider-Man, that's a trilogy, so it really wouldn't count. And Amazing Things films kind of bring it down a bit. X-Men franchise, like, you have X-Men 3 in there, which is and X-Men Wolverine Origins, which is awful. So I don't think it nearly. It wouldn't.
Wolverine Origins was an abortion.
Yeah,
that movie should just be erased from existence.
I think Fox is trying to do that as much as possible.
They should get the little stick thing from Men in Black and just erase it from everyone's mind.
And another film I brought up the film when I talked about Casino Royale, but what about the Bourne franchise?
Oh yeah, there is 4 of them since Legacy came out, right, with Jeremy Renner.
There's Legacy, and then there's a talk of another one coming out soon. With Matt Damon returning. But I technically Legacy does exist within the same universe.
They showed Matt Damon's picture for 1 second in that movie.
Exactly. What do we think about that?
I'm a big fan of that. That's a great.
See, the thing about I love the trilogy, and I feel like I'd rather it be a trilogy than like I don't hate the 4th film, but I just feel like it doesn't belong. It's like feels such like it's like more of a video game add-on than an actual movie. Like, it doesn't seem like it's necessary at all. But I don't know. What do you think, Greg?
I've seen the first one, and I think the second one. I've never really gotten too into them for the most part. I don't think they were culturally outrageous, crazy people going for them. I think there was interest there, but I don't think it was crazy interest like some of the other movies, like Star Wars: A New Hope, with people going back about 50 billion times.
Yeah. Certainly not necessarily near the level of the ones we've kind of put in there, like a Rocky or James Bond or whatnot. So, any other franchises we're thinking of that we haven't mentioned yet?
I would say there was one I was considering before we kind of set our criteria. I guess it still qualifies, but this is another one with kind of a bad 4th movie, and that would be the Indiana Jones franchise.
Oh, I love Indiana Jones.
Me too.
Is it enough to overtake that 4th one?
I think the Crystal Skull. Oh.
Yeah. I still remember walking out of there. I'm like, aliens? Really?
I was walking out going, fucking refrigerator?
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. The 4th one, Temple of Doom, is okay. It's good. I enjoy it. It has a lot of fun parts to it. But the first one, Raiders of the Lost Ark, is just to me, it's like the best action adventure movie ever, bar none, not even close. And then The Last Crusade is nearly just as good. So for me, even though the 4th one is atrocious, I would put the 4th one on par with Episode 1 or Rocky 5. So if we're considering those, I think it definitely still belongs in contention.
I think it kind of meets that. If you could make another criteria of 70%, 75% of the films have to be solid, I think it would meet that.
Yeah, if you're gonna count everything that's great about it with everything that's bad, I think everything that greatly overrides the last movie. What about you, Greg?
Yeah, I think it overrides the last movie. I think they could just take that one out of general knowledge and use the Men in Black memory stick on that one. But I love Indiana Jones as a character and everything, and I like the action adventure feel of it. I like him going up against Nazis. Who doesn't love a heroic guy just kicking Nazi ass?
Yeah, I know, and he is the best punch in cinematic history. So the sound of his punch is tremendous. So. And I mean, if you look at, we talked about the Marvel Cinematic Universe, like the first Captain America movie, so much takes a lot of its style from the Indiana Jones franchise. So even Guardians of the Galaxy as well, there's certainly elements of that.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely belongs. Any other ones we're thinking of?
Police Academy.
I mean, obviously.
I'm gonna say this one. This obviously there's no chance of making it, I don't think. But I think it should be in the discussion only because I believe it holds the record for most films in a franchise, and that would be Godzilla.
Ooh, I didn't even think of that. That's a good poll.
I believe they have 30 movies or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah,
most of them bad, but
yeah, that's the thing going against that one.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. You're worth a mention, but I don't think it would belong in that sense because I don't think they very much stand out apart from one another, like the different films from that. I mean, hopefully I'm not offending Godzilla fans, but I mean, there are 30 movies. I think I can name a handful. So
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Your average, person, they're not even gonna know there's been 30 Godzilla movies. Most people probably think there's been 4. So
one I was thinking of too. This again, you have some bad entries in this, but when we threw this on Facebook, this was one that we got some response for, and that's Die Hard.
Oh, Die Hard's good.
Nice.
So, first one, obviously great. Second one, Third one,
I like the second one.
See, I
kind of like the second one.
It's been a while. Like the second one.
It's been a while since I've seen it. I have to be honest. So, but I remember compared to the first one, maybe not as good. Not saying it's a bad movie, but
I thought the second one was better than the first one, to be quite honest.
Whoa.
Only by a little, though. I think they're both really high up there. It's not like I'm reducing it down to taking a shit on it.
Yeah. Appreciate that, Greg.
I really enjoyed both those movies.
You're not hitting the Anne Frank button on it.
I think the second one's a little bit better. I still think they're both very far up there on movies that I like, but
okay. I would disagree, but that's fine. The third one I think is a lot of fun too, because I would probably rank the third one as my second favorite after the first one. I do like the fourth one as well. I know a lot of people don't like the fourth one of Live Free or Die Hard.
I thought that was pretty good. And I also think the one where his son is in there was actually really good.
Yeah, that one I'm not a big fan of. I'm not gonna lie. But I did like the fourth one. It's definitely a different It's nothing like a Die Hard movie, but I thought it was at least fun. Did you see the last one, the Free or Die Hard? Or no, a Good Day to Die Hard. Did you see the last one, Chuck?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
Is that the one with the kid from Accepted?
No, that's Live Free or Die Hard.
Oh, okay.
It's the guy from, I'm not sure what he's from, but it's when they go to Russia and the guy's playing his son.
Oh no, I didn't see that one.
Okay, it's definitely I was not the biggest fan, but beyond that, you do have a lot of great films in there. Do we think it belongs in discussion as well? I know we have a lot already, but
it's really good, but I don't know if it's good enough to knock out the ones we have in there so far. It's
close.
Yeah.
If I look at Indiana Jones or Die Hard, which one I'd prefer, I'd probably go Indiana Jones. But I mean, it's tough. What do you think, Greg?
I think I would take Die Hard over Indiana Jones, to be quite honest.
Really?
Oh wow, that's surprising.
Okay, well, we'll see when we get down to the nitty gritty. Just one more I wanted to mention, and then I don't know if you had any more, and that was just the Alien franchise. I love the first film. I love the second film. The third film, pretty good too. Fourth one's awful, and then everything after that's not very good either. And though, if you count Prometheus, I do like Prometheus too, though a lot of people hate that film. But I think, have you guys seen any of the Alien films at all?
No, I have not. I've caught it on TV in parts, but I've never seen an entire one all the way through.
What about you, Chuck?
I have seen a couple of them, like here and there, like on TV as well. I did see Prometheus. Pretty cool movie.
I didn't know you saw that. That's cool.
Yeah. I don't know. I like it. I like it a lot. I like you said, it's probably more of just like an honorable mention or whatever.
Yeah.
But
I think it has two great films, but I don't think it's overall nearly as strong as some of the other ones we talked about.
Yeah.
Any other franchises before we try to kind of cut this down?
Whew. You know, I was trying to think of some before we did this. I had like a list, and I feel like I'm leaving something out. But
I'll throw some.
The Love Bug.
Ooh, Herbie and Love Bug. Did forget about that.
I have one which I know some people mentioned on the Facebook page, which drummed up a little bit of interest, and that was Transformers.
Yeah,
I couldn't get into those.
I'm not a fan of the third one even. So
yeah, I like
really
the first
like
one,
the first two. I like, but
it's also there's Star Trek. If we're going to talk about Star Wars, but
I was going to mention that one before.
I like some of the Star Trek films, but I think it's like a 50-50 ratio with that, so I wouldn't put it.
I agree.
I think that's more notable for its TV show than its movies. And just some other ones I had: Planet of the Apes. Again,
yeah.
Some good ones, some really really bad ones. I just don't think it has a consistency. Rise of the Planet of the Apes and Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, both fantastic. So it's kind of coming back. So maybe in a few years, if that keeps going, it would be on here, but. I don't know if there's enough there after, because a lot of people don't even realize there's films after Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
So
it certainly was huge back in the day.
Yeah, it was pretty popular, and I think that's pretty much Fast and Furious, popular, but obviously doesn't belong. Mission Impossible.
Next. About the Fast and Furious, I mean.
Yeah. See, like I hated those movies, though I liked the fifth and the sixth one, but. When it kind of stopped being a car chase film, it started being like a heist movie. And then I also mentioned Mission Impossible, which is okay. I love the fourth one. Like, I really like that film, but overall, and yeah, that's pretty much all I had.
Let me ask you this. I honestly don't know. I'm going to defer to your movie wisdom. I'm thinking it might be a trilogy, but how many movies were in the Godfather universe?
There were 3, but we only like to talk about 2 of them.
Right, that's kind of the impression I got. I wasn't sure if there was a 4th one at all, but
no, not yet.
Those were good movies, though. I enjoyed all those, even the third one. Even though it was, I can see where it's terrible.
Yeah. Okay, so now the hard part comes down. So right now, these are the ones we said we definitely have in contention: Star Wars, Harry Potter, Rocky, James Bond, Indiana Jones, Marvel Cinematic Universe, and Die Hard. So if you're keeping track at home. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's 7 franchises, and we have to only pick 4. So this is where it gets tough. So I think we can pretty much throw in Star Wars. Do we agree? I mean, that's a definite.
Yeah.
I would say Star Wars and James Bond, without a doubt, definites. I mean, longevity, impact. We in agreement there.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so we have Star Wars.
Big Darth Vader helmet.
Yeah, I agree. I'd go Darth Vader helmet, or what would be James Bond? His smoking gun, or
no, that would look weird. I think it has to be a head of some sort on there. So I'd put Sean Connery's head on there.
Probably, yeah. I think that's a good call. Okay, so now we have those out. So we still have Harry Potter, Rocky, Indiana Jones, Marvel Cinematic Universe, and Die Hard. So out of these 5, we have to choose 2. Jesus, why can't they have more heads on Mount Rushmore?
See, I have my determination of what the Mount Rushmore is at this point already. I think it should be the 2 we have, and I think it should be Harry Potter and the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Ooh.
Interesting.
I was actually going to suggest we could drop the Marvel ones just because they're so young.
Well, then we would have to drop Harry Potter, too, because that's still kind of young at this point.
True.
I think their impact kind of override the youth, I think.
I mean, the first one came out in, 2008? I mean, it's right now the most financially successful franchise of all time. They've all been positively reviewed so far. So I mean, if we're looking at consistency, technically probably Marvel Cinematic Universe has the most out of all the films here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They are young. I mean, but I also think like if that could also be the franchise we use to represent like the franchises of now in a way.
Yeah. And even they've done a good job of keeping the same actors. Pretty good job.
So I think I do agree that the cinematic universe certainly belong. Pretty much, if comic movies are the dominating films right now when it comes to franchises, so it would represent like today's time. Like, so I agree. So we now we have one spot left. So, I know you said Harry Potter.
Stanley head.
There you go.
Would you hear the rumor where people were thinking that he plays the Watcher in all the different films?
Really?
Yeah, that's like why he's in all the different movies.
His head isn't big enough, I don't think.
No.
That would be interesting.
Okay, so we have one more spot. I know you said Harry Potter. I'm thinking, honestly, man, this is tough. I feel like with Cinematic Universe, we have that covered. I love the Harry Potter films, but I'm kind of leaning towards either Rocky or Indiana Jones is kind of what I'm thinking. I don't know. What do you think, Chuck?
I mean, if you're going to ask me, I got to go with Rocky personally, but it's hard for me to put my feelings aside for that. But I mean, Indiana Jones is great. I think maybe Rocky had more of a broader audience. Maybe I'm dead wrong in that, but
well, I know like if you want to consider box, it's kind of hard, but I think box office wise, Indiana Jones definitely was more prominent, I believe.
You already got a Lucas franchise on there. We can't put another one.
That's what I was also thinking too. There's always a Lucas franchise. So maybe I don't know. What do you think, Greg? Are you still sticking with your Harry Potter?
Yeah, I'm still sticking with Harry Potter. Sorry.
I do enjoy the Harry Potter films, but
for me it goes Harry Potter, Indy, Rocky, and then what was the last one we had? Die Hard.
And are you just based upon how much you like them, or what do you?
Kind of, yes. I think I had a big amount of cultural impact of people seeing those movies.
Yeah, I guess part of that too, with that cultural impact, I guess you would also have to say the books also were like a big assist for that. So they had like an established base already.
But it's still carried on from there. It's not like they really lost many people from the books.
Yeah, I mean, technically you could say the same thing about Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now that I say that, I don't know. I'm thinking I'm leaning towards, because we have a Lucas franchise. We have right now we have a lot of action franchises, and though Rocky is action, I think if you're trying to make maybe a more diverse Mount Rushmore that covers different territory, Rocky is a Academy Award winning franchise. Certainly it has some more dramatic aspects of it. They've had games. I'm thinking Rock. I personally, out of these franchises, I think
you do realize that you could say the same thing for the Harry Potter films as well as you just said for Rocky. All of it.
What do you mean?
Well, it's had multiple games out there. It's won Academy Awards. But
I mean, Rocky's won like Best Picture Academy Awards. It was voted like the best movie of that year, which take it with what you will. I mean, Harry Potter has won. I think it's been nominated for cinematography and score and makeup and special effects and stuff like that. If you look at the purpose of this entire thing, where it's like, okay, you make a Mount Rushmore that's supposed to represent franchises as a whole, like what people think of, I don't think that really makes it any easier.
I think most of the people that like Rocky are dying out.
Well, maybe. I mean, maybe if you go to an old folks home, or you go to Philly, or something.
I know a lot of people our age that are really into Rocky.
Yeah,
I agree, but you got the tweens would go more towards Harry Potter, and they'd be like, "What the hell's Rocky?" Plus, I think it would be a little bit ironic having Rocky on Mount Rushmore, because Mount Rushmore is made out of rocks. Come on, you guys.
Yeah.
We'd have a hipster ironic feel to our Mount Rushmore.
Yo, like my nose is made out of like limestone, you know?
I have no idea what you're saying, sir. You have a weird accent.
And now back to what? Starring Tony Danza and Sylvester Stallone.
Greg, you're going Harry Potter. Chuck, you said Rocky. And I'll say
it's hard for me because I haven't seen any of the Harry Potters, so like maybe I'm not a good person to be vouching for or not vouching for it, but
yeah, but I was thinking Indiana Jones too, but like you said, we have a Lucas thing on there already, so is that fair? Though I mean, they're directed by Spielberg, and okay. And
I mean, if you do it this way, like if you compare it to the ones we already have on there, like Indiana Jones is big, but I don't think it's Star Wars big.
No, I agree.
You know what I mean? And
I would say probably the only one that we have left that's at all close to Star Wars big would probably be Harry Potter.
Yeah, like I don't think Die Hard is. I mean, Die Hard's great, but don't think it has the following and the power of some of those other ones.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to, if we're thinking just like representing franchises as a whole, I think I might have to go Potter. I mean, it has its own theme park.
It does.
So
it's expanding.
I did not think, honestly, you would make it, but the more I'm looking at this, the more I feel we have two old school with James Bond and Star Wars, and two new school with Marvel Cinematic Universe and Harry Potter. I mean, I know we didn't mention Lord of the Rings at all, but I don't. The other three films aren't very good, or the other two Hobbit movies aren't very good. But yeah. So this might piss off some people. I don't know, but I think I'm going to vote Harry Potter. So sorry to disappoint you, Chuck. It was a very hard choice. I feel bad about it.
Let it be known that my vote was for Rocky. But how about like maybe we could throw in like on James Bond's cufflink, it's like a boxing glove. Just be like a little nod to Rocky there, maybe.
You know what I'll do too? I'll throw a poll up on the site too with the last ones that we had here. So the last 7 or so remaining, and we'll see. If you think we got it wrong, you'll have the opportunity to let us know. So I'll throw that up at geekcastradio.com.
Good idea.
So, or you can also let us know in the comment section and whatnot, and we'll get all the ways to get in contact with us at the end of the show. But before we go, we like to end each episode with a letter, and this week we're doing another edition of the Unknown franchise, or the Unknown saga. We probably should have put Unknown on this.
Unknown franchise?
Unknown franchise, yeah. We probably should have threw Unknown on here. Anyway,
be a blank spot since we don't know what he actually looks like.
Yeah, big question mark. So here is episode 10 of Unknown, Behold.
Wake up! Wake up, Unknown. We are here.
Did I die?
No, you have arrived.
Where? Where's my father?
Dead, I am afraid. Here, let me help you up.
Good one, Don. You are just a head. No hands to help me up with.
Things have changed.
How so? Where are you?
Right behind you.
Don, what the hell happened to you?
I don't know, actually, but it seems like I'm alive and back in my old body. I don't understand how you can get around in these living bodies. They are so cumbersome.
Well, I guess you'll just have to get used to it. Also, you may want to watch what you say to me anymore, because now I can follow up on my threats.
I guess I'll have to keep that in mind.
So, where are we?
I think it is more than a question of where, but when as well.
Remember a few moments ago when I promised to follow through on my threats?
Quite. But I think we will find our answers over this hill.
This is amazing, but I've never seen anything like this. It still doesn't answer my question, though.
Welcome to Camelot, my friend.
The mythological kingdom that my father ruled?
The historical kingdom that your father rules currently.
Ah, and how did we get here?
I believe the power of the sword is far more than anyone has ever known.
Wait, where is the sword? Did we leave it behind?
It was gone when you woke up. I think we might be able to find our answers in the city.
Well, you lead, Don, and I'll follow.
Well, I hope you enjoyed episode 10 of Unknown, and you're welcome for all the hard work I did in that episode.
Because I did so much, it was a very short episode. I'm sorry about that.
It's a mini episode. It's all right. I'm pretty sure you guys got a lot of podcast goodness to keep up with it. But like I mentioned, if you want to get in contact with us, there are tons of different ways. You can send us emails at feedback@geekcastradio.com or at talkingincircles@live.com. We're also on Facebook and Twitter. Just search Talking in Circles GCRN. Greg, and what is your Twitter name?
It is at the Create Forge.
And I am at Movie Revolt, and Chuck is still not on Twitter.
The Jason Mantzoukas of our podcast.
And you can also comment on the episode post. This is where we get most of our interaction by going to geekcastradio.com or nerdly.co.uk. But anything else before we bring this episode to a close?
Rocky! Rocky!
Oh, Adrian! And the biggest comeback of the night, Rocky has actually subsided.
Just fought. He just punched Harry Potter in the face and made his way up to Mount Rushmore.
But yeah, so let us know how wrong you think we are. We appreciate it. We'll try to defend ourselves. I don't know. Anyways, that'll be it for this week. We'll be back next week. Same time, same channel, same podcast feed. But for now,
this has been Chuck.
This has been Greg, or Bond. James Bond with a cold.
And this has been Dan, and we've been Talking in Circles. We'll see you next week. So, you think about it, though, James Bond probably got a lot more viruses than a cold.
Many STDs.
Yeah, it's just riddled with STDs all over the place. Gonorrhea, syphilis.
He actually just has a rotting hole where his crotch is.
Speaking of which, when Sean Connery goes to Wimbledon, what time does he arrive?
I don't know.
10-ish.
Oh.